Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu shehakol nהיה b'dvarei. All right. Morning, folks. Welcome. Continue our mimer. The Hasidic discourse, Ata Titzava. Today's the day after Gimel Tammuz. So we have to take the inspiration of the day and bring it into the year. Okay. So we need to understand that everything that we've learned till now is giving us the idea of kosis, crushed, right? Challenging, difficult times. That brings out the luminary from within us, right? It is connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, and the extension of Moses in every generation. That connects us, binds us to our insight, to the infinite of God. In other words, that I should come to the Ma'or from within, which means not just the light that I have. We all have a light in us, but we have a source of light, which is even greater than the light itself, the core of us, right? The true, authentic self. So it's the leader of the generation, the Moses of the generation, that helps us reach there. But when we look at the verse, when we look at the verse in the Torah, it sounds more that we bring the crushing experience of life, the the darkness, the difficulties that we deal with, that brings out the best in us, then we bring that to Moses. As the verse says, that we should bring the crushed olive oil to Moses, to Moshe. So it seems like, we're the ones who are accomplishing it. So who is it? Is it the Moses of the generation that brings us there, or is it us? So of course the answer will be that it's both, but we need to understand. Right? So on a multiple question answer over here, it's the understanding that's what's important. Okay. So if we go back to the story of Purim, which, if you recall, this discourse is based on the previous Rebbe, that he said a discourse in 1927 where the communists were on a very hot trail to implicate the previous Rebbe in all of his work that he was doing that was so called against the state, right? That Jews should be Jewish. So in the story of Purim, so it says Kibul HaYehudim. There's a verse that says at the end of the story that the Jewish people accepted, and the Talmud expounds upon it. They accepted that which they already began. Right. So this verse, they accepted, meaning they accepted their role in the service of God, in the fulfillment of that role. They accepted. The verse is actually said after the whole story of the miracle, after Haman gets hung. And as a matter of fact, Esther even gets the house of Haman. So the story is not told, I mean, this verse rather, is not told in the thick of things that, the Jewish people accepted God Almighty, returned to God, and, through that brought upon a miracle, the miracle of God. That, the downfall of Haman and his foiled plan to destroy, annihilate, God forbid, the Jewish people. So, um, so seemingly that verse would be more fitting, in the midst of the story where they changed their way and they began to fulfill, and connect to God and follow the ways of the Torah. But it says after everything. So, says the Rebbe, we could say, and this is really getting to the crux of our discourse of appreciating and understanding the novelty, the chiddush, the Rebbe brings out that is crucial for us. So this idea that the Jewish people accepted upon themselves that which they already, what do you mean? We accepted God. Yeah, we already did accept God. No, at Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. So the verse is saying that this is, we accepted. Yeah, but in the middle of the decree, the Jewish people recognized that this was coming from heaven, and because of Mordechai, the Moses of his generation, he led the Jews to return and come close to God. And in their day-to-day self-sacrifice of upholding Torah mitzvahs. So this this verse over here is speaking about, again, after the miracle, because there's two ideas here that the Torah wants to teach us. There's an idea of before the miracle, after the miracle. Before the decree, during the decree, that the Jewish people had self-sacrifice, right? Remember, Haman made a decree to annihilate, heaven forfend, the entire Jewish people. And that brought the people to reconnect and in a way of self-sacrifice, putting themselves aside and self-sacrifice, ready to sacrifice for their Jewishness, right? Which is the way we understand simply till now. Also in the previous Rebbe's explanation of in his discourse. But then you have, after the miracle, which is even greater, acceptance. What does that mean? It means like this. So let's go back to the idea of being broken, and we'll tie it in with that. Right? Because remember, Purim is the example of what it means to truly be broken. You're in a time of exile, not only a time of exile, but there's a decree to annihilate the entire Jewish people. Of course, you're going to be broken. You're going to be crushed. Right? That makes sense. And as we explained, the whole discourse is saying that you're being crushed. That brings out the best in you, the luminary in you, not just light, but the source of light, the luminary within you. even greater. Right, that we get. But there's two ideas over here that you could be crushed. Um, that brings out the luminary within you in order um, and the luminary within you, in other words, the best in you. There is when we are in a crushing experience, right? There's a decree as in the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, like when the previous Rebbe said the discourse in 1927, the Soviet communists trying to annihilate Judaism. They didn't want to annihilate the Jewish people per se, even though you know, they wanted to annihilate Judaism, anything that's based on God, anything that's based on faith, anything that's not, to serve the state. That was the new God. So they were out to destroy that. And as a result, of course, that's crushing. What does it bring out in the Jew? Ma'or, kosis lamor, crushed to the luminary, brings out the luminary in us, brings out the greatest in us. We not withstand. We stand it all and stand it down. That's what the previous Rebbe did. But there's another idea of what it means, kosis lamor, what it means to be crushed. Listen to this. It's like the time we're living now, if you will, where we have plenty, right? We live in a time of plenty compared to 100 years ago. This discourse is based on a discourse said 98 years ago. Soviet communist Russia, oh boy. Or let's say, Khmelnytsky in 1648, 49. Those are crushing times. Now we have our chava. We have plenty. We have plenty materially. Compare, right? But we also have plenty spiritually. Spiritual opportunities today, the opportunity to, learn Torah. Well, plenty, as we are doing right now. Plenty of opportunity that was not had 100 years ago, 500 years ago, in the same way as it is now. But yet, we're still in exile. We're still in gullus, right? Which is similar, just for the similarity, to the story of Purim, not during the crushing experience of a decree to annihilate, heaven forfend, the entire Jewish people, but after the Jewish people also then had, as the verse says, we had light, we had joy, we had gladness, we had, right? We had that materially and spiritually. The house of Haman was given to Esther. Imagine the ultimate foe. His house is given to the ultimate Jewess, right? Everything got transformed. So what's crushing? Well, we were still in exile then in the story of Purim. We were still the servants of Achashverosh, even though we could be Jews, act like Jews, do Torah mitzvahs. It wasn't a problem, no decree anymore. As a matter of fact, people saw something special in the Jewish people at that time after the miracle of Purim. Right, so that's the parallel. What is in our verse? that we're broken. So why are we broken if we have everything in life? Think about it. Compared to our ancestors, we have it all. Now, are there poor people? Yes, obviously. The people destitute? Absolutely. Relatively speaking, and just look at our own situation, right? Even compared to 40, 50 years ago, the amounts uh, of plenty is plenty more. So, but yet, so then why are we broken? Remember, the verse says, "Kosis, crushed, broken." So what are we broken about? Because we're in exile, right? Because we're in exile. Because Mashiach isn't here. Because we don't have the third holy temple. Because we don't have the redemption. So we're broken. And that brings us to what? A deeper place in us. Ma'or. Kosis lamor, as the verse says. Crushed, broken. That brings us to the ma'or, to the state of place within us, the source of our light, not just light, right, in a crushing experience. Right? We all can learn from, the challenges of life and become better. It's much more than that. When we become better, we are better in a core, authentic way. We reach to really. Now, okay, what does it mean exactly, though? How do you understand that? What do you mean that we're broken because it's a time of exile? If you don't have good health, so we get it, why a person would be broken. If spiritually you've, you're you're broken, okay, we get that, right? If you're having troubles in with family life, whatever that means, to members of family, you're not getting along with someone and that's painful and that you feel the crushing of it. Okay? We're not saying that. We're saying you got all that, which we could have it. Yeah, we're still broken. We're still crushed because we're in exile. What does it mean? Because the true will of the soul, the Jewish soul, is one thing. Gile Elokus, that God should be revealed. Until to the fact that the revelation of godliness actually touches me in my core being, in every fiber of me. Wow. Therefore, in a time of exile, when the light of godliness is not shining like it was in the times of the Holy Temple, right? Which we're not living such a time, and as our sages say, that if you didn't build the Holy Temple in your generations, as if you destroyed the Holy Temple, that could bring to us something crushing, right? So the very fact of this is that the light of God is not shining as it was once upon a time. The light of God, not my light, not my accomplishments, not my, comfort. The light of God, that's unusual. It's not shining the way it was. It's not revealed. It's not palpable, and sense the connection as it was. This itself gives, as the Rebbe says, in ganzen zerreißelt, completely shook, crushed, like that bothers you. Kosis. And even if you're a lofty person yourself, right, that it's like the Rebbe, speaking about me, and by you, there is the revelation of godliness, as it was in the times of the temple. The Shekhinah, the divine presence, is with you. Nonetheless, it's not shining everywhere in the world by everyone else. That's a proof that even what I have, the light of God in my life, is limited. Wow. Because when we talk about the light of God, the infinite light of God means if it were really revealed, it would be revealed infinitely and meaning everywhere. If there is one place, even a little farvarfene plots, even a pina nidachas, even a corner of the world. Okay, imagine everywhere. It's godliness, but one corner of the world doesn't have it. They missed out. They didn't. They didn't get the memo. That there isn't the light of God shining means that whatever light of God is shining is itself limited because it didn't touch one place in the world. That means even by that person, well, it's got to be a real lofty soul, right? Is really the revelation of the infinite light of God is not really shining in that person. Because either it's shining everywhere, the infinite light of God, because there will be no limitations, or it's not shining by you. And because it's not shining everywhere, and therefore it's not really shining by you, the infinite light of God, yes, the light of God might be in that person, is shining. The light of God is shining by the Rebbe, by holy people, no question, right? But if it's not by you and I, that means it's not by him either in the truly infinite light of God. And that is not just disturbing, but breaks you, crushes you. Wow. Okay. This is very, this is like, wow. I didn't translate this for you, how this could be meaningful to us, because we don't have time, but I will. How this is not just like for the lofty, the holy, and the righteous, but this is uh, um, an idea, sentiment that we can also have some kind of, even though it's pure form, it is the right, a very lofty thing. But yeah, we'll translate it. All right, folks.